Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to be sharing with you how to make this stylish gown. So if you haven't yet seen the drafting tutorial, please go down to my YouTube channel, and if you haven't yet subscribed, please hit on the subscribe button. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So now here is the front pattern, and I used this pattern to cut out the front part. So I added ½ inch on top, and I didn't add any ½ inch or any allowance at the lower part because we have already added that before. So while I was cutting this, I went ahead to blend in my dart, and I'll be sharing with you how to cut that out also. So when cutting out your pattern, you're going to blend in your dart this way, and you're going to go ahead to trace this all the way around. So this is what I did for my pattern when I was cutting it out, and as you can see, I also blended in my dart. So I did this for people that might have issue when blending their dart and cutting out this pattern. So I just wanted to show you how I cut out my pattern, and I'll also be doing this for the back pattern. So I also went ahead to use this same pattern to cut out the lining and gum stay. So I ironed gum stay to the lining, so I'll go ahead to iron this so that it's going to lay flat on the fabric. Sorry, on the lining of the dress I ironed gum stay. So you can also use an interface for your material, that is an stay, but I'm just making this tutorial with a doll face. I actually got 2 yards and I ended up using 1 yard. So I'm not actually going to wear this dress. Is a requested video that I made for someone. So next I'm going to go ahead to place my yoke, and I'm going to be tracing it out. So I've already folded it into 2. I'll go ahead to fold it again. So there are 2 ways to go about your yoke part. Is either to double it and turn it up, or you use a bias to sew the edge of your fabric. So I added ½ inch round apart from the side going to the armhole, and you're going to unpin your pattern this way, and you're going to be stitching the part going towards the facing each other. Sorry, the part facing each other. I'll stitch with ½ inch. After I was done stitching, this is what I have. So that part of the dress I notched is where my sleeve will start. So remember, we notched it when we were cutting out our pattern. That is the pattern drafting. So I'll be taking out 0.25 inches or ½ inch from the lower part. This is to make sure that the yoke will fit on the dress very well at the shoulder. It won't be slacking when you wear it. So I'm just going to go ahead to pin, and I'm going to be stitching this down with ½ inch, and also repeat this at the other side. So after I'm done joining, this is what I have, and I'm going to go ahead to place the lining on it. So this is the lining, and I have ironed gum stay on it. So the lining I cut exactly the same size with the dress. So what I'll do now is I'm taking out ½ inch at the lower part. This is to create a turn-up effect. So remember, when we were drafting out this dress, we only added 1 inch after the length of the dress, apart from the fact that we replaced our bust dart. So what we added was just 1 inch. So I'm just going to trace out ½ inch from the lower part of this dress, and after that I'll be placing the dress on it. So I'll take the right side of the lining, that is the part that doesn't have the gum stay on it, and I'll place the right side of the fabric on it, and I'll be stitching it with ½ inch at the lower part of this dress. So before stitching, go ahead to also pin it so that it won't be moving while sewing. So this is it after I'm done sewing the dress. So I'll go ahead and pull up the fabric this way. You'll be having about ½ inch at the lower part. The main fabric will be ½ inch longer than your fabric. Now you're going to place this at the upper part. Make sure that the upper part is meeting the upper part of the lining, and you're also going to pin this down. You're going to pin all around from the upper part to the sides of your fabric. And while pinning, you will notice that you have about ½ inch on your fabric. So you're going to pin it down this way. you're going to push it down, and it's going to be serving as your turn up allowance after you're done stitching your dress. So after I'm done pinning, by the sides of the fabric, I'm going to mark. So I'll be leaving that part open, I won't be stitching it. So I'll go ahead to also cut out the excess I have at the sides of the fabric also. So before going ahead to turn, you're going to go ahead to knot your fabric very well. This will help it relax after turning it, and you're going to also iron the sides very well. So after I'm done notching, this is what I have, and as you can see, that little ½ inch at the lower part. So at this side, I'll just place and I will top stitch it. Moving over to the back pattern, I went ahead to also cut the sleeve and also cut out my dress. So I joined my sleeve just the same way I joined the front part. So now I'm going to place it at that notch part and stitch with ½ inch. So just the same way we ironed our gum stay to the lining, I'm also going to repeat it for the back pattern. So I'll go ahead and place and I will iron this. So I'll be doing an explanation before going ahead to iron it. I'm going to go ahead to trim out ½ inch at the lower part, just like we did for the front part of the pattern also. So after you're done doing that, you're going to get your front pattern. Now you're going to place the right side of the fabric to the right side of your lining. That is, the right side of your lining is the part that doesn't have gum stay, and you're going to place and pin it together and stitch with ½ inch. So after you're done stitching with ½ inch, just the same way your main fabric will be a bit longer than your lining with ½ inch, that's what you're going to have here also. Now you're going to pull up your lining and you're going to make it meet your fabric, and you'll be pinning with ½ inch. So you're going to also pin it just the same way we pinned the front pattern. You'll be pinning the sides, the upper part and the side, and also remember to leave a space for you to turn up your fabric to the right side. So at the lower part, you notice that you have an excess of ½ inch. All you're going to do is pull it up this way, and it will be serving as your turn up allowance. And also remember, you're going to be leaving a space to turn this to the right side. So I'll go ahead and pin this, and I'll be stitching it up, and I will leave a space at one part, and I'll use that part to turn it up. So after I'm done stitching, this is what I have for the back. So I'm going to go ahead to stitch it up with 1 inch. Remember, we added 1.5 inches for zipper allowance. After using ½ inch to turn it up, you will have ½ inch remaining. So I'll just stitch it up and I'll add my zipper to the dress. So after that, I'll go ahead to match up my fabric this way, and you notice that the lower part or the dress is meeting up because of the side that we have. Now I'm going to place my front shoulder at the middle of my back shoulder, stitch with ½ inch. Go ahead, place my front shoulder at the middle of the back shoulder, stitch with ½ inch. So now we are going over to the sleeve part, and we are going to be marking out our basic sleeve. So I'll be marking 1 inch at the upper part. This will serve as my starting line. So I'll go ahead and I will rule a line at that point. Starting from there, I'll mark my shoulder to elbow, shoulder to wrist point, or where your sleeve is going to stop, and I will mark. I'll go ahead and I will rule a line at those points. So after I'm done marking that, I'm going to mark my sleeve cap height. And to get your sleeve cap height is your bust circumference divided by 12 plus 0.5 inches. I will mark. So after marking, what I'm going to do now is just to go ahead to label it as sleeve cap height, elbow, and where I want my sleeve to stop. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead to mark my armhole circumference divided by 2. My armhole circumference is 16 divided by 2. I have 8, and I'll add 1 inch because of allowance, giving me 9. So I'll go ahead and connect from that point to the tip, and I'll just draw a slanted line to that point. So this is what I have. So I'll be dividing this line into 2. After dividing it into 2, from one part again, I'll go ahead and divide it and mark. And I'll come up by ½ inch at that point. At the other side, I'm going to fold it up and I will mark, then I'll come down by ½ inch. So this is how to cut out a basic sleeve. So from the upper part, I'll just connect my dots to the center dots and to the half we came up and to the upper part of the sleeve. From that center line again, I will go down to that ½ inch and to the end of that 9 inches at the end. So this is how to actually cut out a basic sleeve. Most times on my tutorial, I just use a freehand sketch method to cut out a sleeve. So after I'm done marking this out, you can just go ahead and measure what you have on this part to make sure it matches what you have on your own dress. So after that, I'll just go ahead, take one side of the sleeve and measure. So I have a difference of ½ inch. So what I'll do is place my tape and I'll be adding that ½ inch at the end this way. So after that, we'll be moving down to the elbow point of the sleeve. I'll mark my elbow circumference divided by 2. I'll go ahead and mark, then add ½ inch. At the lower part, I'll repeat the same process, mark my wrist circumference divided by 2, mark and add half. So I'll just go ahead to connect and also connect at the lower part. So I'll go ahead and cut this out and add ½ inch on top for the sewing allowance. So most times after cutting out your sleeve, you notice that this part might be a bit too much. So I just go ahead and trim it out a bit. So I went ahead to use that pattern to cut this out, notch the center, and this is what I have. So I'm just going to take the notched part and place on the shoulder, the joining on the shoulder, and I'm going to be stitching this with ½ inch. And I'll stitch it at the other side also. So this is my pattern after I'm done attaching my sleeve, and we're going to shape out the dress. So I'll go ahead and place my tape. I'll mark my waistline first because that is where I have a sharp bend from and is easily noticeable, because I have a bust dart in case you misplace or you don't know where to place your tape from. I started from the waistline, placed it, marked my under bust and the bust. So now I'm going to go ahead to insert my body circumference. So at the bust, I went ahead to place my tape and I measured. So I had my bust is 33 divided by 2, I have 16 and a half. So what I had there was about 19.5 inches, and 19.5 inches minus 16.5, you're going to have 3 inches. So I'll be sharing 1.5 at both sides. So I went ahead to mark the bust measurement, and at the under bust I placed my tape at the under bust, and I also inserted my under bust circumference. I marked 2 inches at that edge and marked the remaining 2 inches because I had about 4 inches remaining, so I divided it by both sides. So after that, I went ahead to connect from my bust down to that point. So at the waist, I also inserted my waist measurement, which is the same measurement at my under bust, and I'm also using a pencil to mark this out because this is a white dress, so that it will be easier to wash it out after sewing. But I'm not actually wearing this particular dress, it's just for tutorial sake, so I'll just go ahead to connect. So after that, I placed my tape and I came down by 7 inches for my hip point. For a much taller person, go ahead to mark 8 inches. So I placed my tape and I marked my hip circumference. My hip is 40 divided by 2, I have 20. So I went ahead to mark my hip circumference at this point. So after marking that, remember when we were marking this dress, we are cutting out this dress, we added 2 inches extra on our hip point. But while marking, I realized, or I felt that the 2 inches might be too big for the hip point. So what I did, after marking my hip measurement, I added 1 inch extra instead of adding 2 inches by the sides of the hip points. So from that point, I just traced from my waist to my hip point and extended it down. And also at this side, instead of going straight at the lower part, I slanted it a bit just to get the flare effect on the dress. So after I'm done sewing, this is what I have. So if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and join us in our next video. Thanks.